Good morning, everyone. Today's topic is drugs acting on uterus. The learning objectives are uterine stimulants. These are also called as oxytocics or abortifacients. Second is uterine relaxant. These are also called as tocolytics. Now let's see the basic difference between stimulants and relaxants. What are stimulants? They increase uterine contraction during delivery or at various stages of labor. What are the indications? They induce labor, induce abortion, minimize postpartum hemorrhage, augment abnormal labor. What are relaxants? They decrease uterine motility, relax uterus. What are the indications? They are used to delay labor, arrest threatened abortion, and to treat dysmenorrhea. We are going to discuss the uses or indications in detail along with the individual drugs. Now let's begin with the uterine stimulant drugs and uterine relaxant drugs. We'll begin with stimulants. The first group is posterior pituitary hormones, that is oxytocin and dysamino-oxytocin. Second group is ergot alkaloids, that is ergometrin and methyl ergometrin. Third group is prostaglandins, that is PGE2, PGF2 alpha, 15-methyl PGF2 alpha and misoprostol. Fourth is miscellaneous agents are ethacridine and quinine. Now coming to tocolytics, the first group is beta-2 agonists. Those are ritodrine, isosprin, salbutamol and terbutaline. Second group is calcium channel blockers. The drug is nifedipine. Third is oxytocin blocker or oxytocin antagonist. The drug is etosiban. Fourth is magnesium sulfate. Fifth group is prostaglandin synthetase inhibitors, that is indomethacin. Sixth is miscellaneous agents are progesterone, nitrates, ethyl alcohol and general anesthetics. Now let's begin with the stimulant drugs. First we'll begin with oxytocin. What is oxytocin? Oxytocin means quick birth. What is oxytocin? Oxytocin is a non-peptide secreted by the posterior pituitary along with the vasopressin, that is antidiuretic hormone. Now let's discuss the targets and action of this both. Oxytocin acts on uterus and mammary glands. On uterus, it increases the contraction. On mammary gland, there is milk letdown. Now ADH, it acts on kidneys and it increases water reabsorption. Here we are only going to discuss oxytocin. Now let's begin with the synthesis, storage and release of oxytocin. Now the synthesis of oxytocin is at paraventricular nucleus, supraoptic nucleus in hypothalamus. It is stored in posterior pituitary as oxytocin neurophysin complex. The stimuli for its release is persistent distension of cervix and vagina, which causes contraction of pregnant uterus. And on breast, suckling by infant, it causes the contraction of myoepithelial cells of the female breast, which leads to milk letdown. Now the release of oxytocin is inhibited by relaxin and alcohol. Oxytocin is destroyed by oxytocinase. Now coming to pharmacokinetics, oxytocin is effective as parenteral administration. It is given by intravenous infusion and intramuscularly. It is also given by nasal route as nasal spray. It is inactive orally because being a peptide in nature, it is destroyed by the proteolytic enzyme present in the gut. Its half-life is approximately 6 minutes. It is metabolized and excreted mainly through kidney and liver. It is degraded by oxytocinase or cysteine aminopeptides. 1 international unit is equal to 2 microgram of pure hormone. Now coming to pharmacological actions. its action on uterus. It stimulates both frequency and force of contraction. Uterine sensitivity of oxytocin is increased by estrogen and decreased by progesterone. Second point, during the third trimester, spontaneous motor activity of uterus increases progressively until the sharp rise that constitutes the initiation of labor and delivery. That is, contraction of the upper segment and relaxation of the lower segment of uterus, which leads to expulsion of fetus. Now, speaking about non-pregnant uterus, it is resistant to oxytocin. Only 8% of non-pregnant uterus is sensitive to oxytocin. At higher doses, oxytocin causes sustained contraction without relaxation, which leads to decreased blood flow to the fetus, which leads to fetal distress and asphyxia and death. Now, during labor, there is increased in number of oxytocin receptors, so there is increase in sensitivity to oxytocin. Now, on breast, suckling by infant stimulates the nipple mechanoreceptors, which sends the signal to the hypothalamus. Then from hypothalamus, it is the oxytocin from the posterior pituitary is released, which increases the oxytocin release, which causes the contraction of myoepithelial cells of the mammary gland and which leads to milk ejection or milk letdown. On cardiovascular system, oxytocin has no effect at obstetrical doses, but in high doses it causes vasodilatation and so decrease in blood pressure and reflex tachycardia. On kidneys, at toxic doses, there is ADH-like action. In animal models, it plays a role in mating and parenting behavior. Now coming to the physiological role. It has a role in labor, milk ejection reflex and neurotransmission. During labor, oxytocin is released during labor and the uterus is highly sensitive to it at this time. During milk ejection reflex, myoepithelial cells present in the breast are more sensitive than the myoatrium. As a neurotransmitter, it functions as a neurotransmitter in hypothalamus and brainstem to regulate the autonomic neurons. Now let's discuss the uses. First use is induction of labor. In case of post-maturity or prematurely in toxemia of pregnancy, diabetic mother, erythroblastosis, ruptured membranes or placental insufficiency, oxytocin is given by slow IV infusion in a dose of 5 international units diluted in 500 ml of glucose or normal saline solution. Now what are the advantages? It has a short half-life, so the intensity of action can be controlled. At low concentrations, there is a period of complete relaxation between the two uterine contractions, so it prevents the fetal asphyxia. Third point, lower uterine segment is not contracted, so fetal descent is not compromised. Second use is uterine inertia. When uterine contractions are feeble and labor is not progressing satisfactorily, it should not be used to hasten normally progressing labor. Oxytocin is a drug of choice and is preferred over ergometrin and prostaglandins for the above two purposes. Third use is postpartum hemorrhage and cesarean section. Oxytocin in a dose of 5 international units may be injected intramuscularly or by IV infusion for an immediate response, especially in the hypertensive women or in high risk patients in whom ergometrin is contraindicated. Fourth use is breast engorgement. It may occur due to the insufficient milk ejection reflex. Here, oxytocin is effective only in such cases as an intranasal spray may be given few minutes before suckling. It does not increase the milk production. Fifth is oxytocin challenge test. This test is rarely performed. Now, this test is used to determine the uteroplacental adequacy in risk pregnancies. A marked increase in fetal heart rate indicates uteroplacental inadequacy. Now, coming to the adverse effects. Non-judicious use can lead to serious reactions, that is fetal distress, placental abruption, or uterine rupture. At higher concentrations, it can cause excessive fluid retention or water intoxication, which leads to hyponatremia, heart failure, seizure, and death. With bolus injection, it will lead to hypotension. Now, desamino-oxytocin. It is a buccal formulation of oxytocin. Actions or indications are similar to oxytocin. Now let's discuss the second group, that is prostaglandins. These are also stimulants. They are found in ovary, myometrium and menstrual fluid. Their rise is seen in amniotic fluid during labor. Now let's discuss their pharmacological properties. First is myometrium or uterus. During the last 2 trimesters of pregnancy, PGE2 or PGF2 alpha causes strong uterine contractions and can induce delivery of the fetus. Second point, in contrast to oxytocin, prostaglandins are much more effective than in oxytocin in the earlier months of pregnancy. Their action on cervix, they cause ripening of cervix at doses that do not affect uterine motility. They also cause softening of the cervix in first trimester of pregnancy. Now let's discuss the uses of prostaglandins. They are used for therapeutic abortion. Now what is therapeutic abortion? This is an abortion done usually at the mid trimester when there is a physical or mental threat to the mother. It can be medical complications or some social stigmas like rape, pregnancies. So what are the major drugs? These are prostaglandin E2, PGF2 alpha and 15-methyl PGF2 alpha. Gemprost, which is administered as vaginal pessaries. Carbaprost, it is an analog of PGF2 alpha. It is given intramuscularly. Misoprostol, it is given orally or intravenous combined with mifepristone. Second uses cervical priming. It is used as a cervical ripening agent to facilitate normal or induce labor. Used to soften the cervix prior to the performance of first trimester abortions by the method of dilatation and evacuation. Dinoprostone is used, endocervical gel, suppositories and oral tablets. Now third use is postpartum hemorrhage. Prostaglandin analog like carbaprost is given intramuscularly. Fourth use is induction and augmentation of term labor. Dinoprostone is preferred because of its diuretic action, but prostaglandins cause hyperstimulation of uterus. Now let's discuss the adverse effects of prostaglandins. They will cause headache, fever and vasodilatation. We can see vasodilatation with PGE2, hypertension with PGF2 alpha. There is high incidence of adverse effects and delivery complications when prostaglandins are used alone. They are not used with oxytocin because it can lead to uterine rupture. Now let's see the contraindications of prostaglandins. They are not supposed to be used in the patients with cardiac conditions, with renal conditions, pulmonary and hepatic disorders. Now coming to the third group of stimulants, those are ergot alkaloids. The examples are ergometrin and methyl ergometrin. major effects of ergot-alkaloids. First, they are serotonin receptor blockade. They cause direct stimulation of vascular and non-vascular smooth muscles. Now speaking about the pharmacological actions, first on uterus, ergometrin and methyl ergometrin. They both have similar pharmacological action. They both increase force, frequency and duration of uterine contractions. Now gravid uterus is more sensitive. Their stimulant action involves the lower segment also. They are partial agonistic action on 5-HT2 and alpha adrenergic receptors. They can also cause uterine atony. There is risk of fetal distress, compression, asphyxia and death. This is because of the stimulant action involves the lower segment also. Now coming to cardiovascular system, at obstetric doses, no increase in BP is seen. On CNS, at obstetric doses, no effects are seen. On GIT, that is gastrointestinal system, there is increase in peristalsis. GIT side effects are seen at low doses as it acts on both emetic center directly and on GI serotonin receptors. Now coming to pharmacokinetics, they are rapidly and nearly completely absorbed from the oral route. The onset of uterine action is oral, it takes along 15 minutes, intramuscularly is about 5 minutes and intravenously almost immediately. They are metabolized in liver and excreted in urine. Their plasma half-life is 1 to 2 hours. Now let's discuss the uses. First use is in postpartum hemorrhage. Now they are used for the prevention in high-risk cases and for the treatment of postpartum hemorrhage in a dose of 0.2 to 0.3 milligram intramuscularly or 0.2 milligram intravenously. Now here, methyl ergometrin is preferred over ergometrin because it is effective orally, small doses are required, it is less toxic and has minimum adverse effects. And third point is it is devoid of adrenergic blocking, vasoconstriction and emetic activity. Second use is it is used in management of third stage of labor. Here mostly ergometrin is used in a dose of 0.2 to 0.5 milligram intramuscularly. Third use is cesarean section or instrumental delivery. Here they are used to prevent the uterine atony. Fourth use is to ensure normal innovulation. Now, this is generally seen in cases of multipara. Here in a dose of 0.125 milligram ergometrin is used thrice a day. Now let's discuss the adverse effects. Ergometrin and methyl ergometrin are less toxic than ergotamine. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, headache and an increase in BP is seen. At high doses, they decrease the milk secretion. Overdose of ergometrin causes prolonged vasospasm, which leads to gangrene of finger and toes due to the vasoconstriction or effect. Now, what are the contraindications? During pregnancy and before third stage of labor, these are contraindicated. Patients with hypertension, myocardial infarction, angina, preeclampsia, eclampsia, porphyria, and vascular diseases and collagen diseases, these drugs are contraindicated. These are also contraindicated in threatened and spontaneous abortions. also in liver and kidney diseases, also in presence of septicemia or sepsis, because this can lead to gangrene. Now, coming to miscellaneous agents, these are ethacridine and quinine. Actually, these agents are used rarely. Ethacridine is used as an extra amniotic infusion for the termination of pregnancy in second trimester. Now we are coming to tocolytic agents. Let's discuss about tocolytic agents. We've already discussed what are tocolytic agents. Tocolytic agents are, they decrease the uterine motility. What were the groups or the drugs? These were beta agonist, calcium channel blockers, oxytocin antagonist, magnesium sulfate, prostaglandin synthetase inhibitor, and miscellaneous drugs. So let's discuss these drugs in details. Now, what are the indications of tocolytic agents? First, premature labor. Premature birth account for large fraction of perinatal mortality. It is often difficult to determine whether the premature birth is imminent, and 50% or more of the patient who present with regular uterine contraction will respond to bed rest and hydration. In general, the use of tocolytic agents is reserved for those pregnancies where gestational age is greater than 20 weeks and less than 34 to 36 weeks. Now let's discuss beta-2 agonist drugs. These are ritodrine, isoxaspirin, salbutamol and terbutaline. We've already discussed the mechanism of action of beta-2 drugs in previous chapters. So we'll directly. Now coming to ritodrine, used for the treatment of premature labor. It has a major uterine relaxant action. Delivery can be postponed in about 70% of the cases by few days to few weeks. The route of administration is, it is given by IV infusion in a dose of 50 microgram per minute. It is also given intramuscularly in a dose of 10 milligram QID for 2 days. It suppresses the contraction for 2 days. Now, what are side effects of ritodrine? It causes pulmonary edema, hypertension, tachycardia, hyperglycemia, and hypokalemia. Now coming to salbutamol and terbutaline. Salbutamol and terbutaline can be used as an alternative to ritodrine. Salbutamol, it is used as a primary drug to delay the delivery by 24 to 78 hours. Now, what are the adverse effects of salbutamol? It causes palpitation, restlessness, nervousness, throat irritation, and ankle edema. Terbutaline, it delays birth but only during the first 48 hours of the treatment. What are the adverse effects with terbutaline? It causes tachycardia, hypertension, pulmonary edema. Now coming to isoxaspirin, the efficacy is uncertain, and route of administration, it can be given orally as well as intramuscularly. Now coming to the second group, that is calcium channel blockers. The drug used here is nifedipine. Nifedipine has a prominent smooth muscle relaxant action, so it can postpone the labor. Oral nifedipine is given in a dose of 10 mg repeated once or twice after 20 to 30 minutes, followed by 10 mg 6 hourly. Reduced placental perfusion causes fetal hypoxia is apprehended. What are the adverse effects? It causes hypertension and tachycardia. Now coming to the third group, that is magnesium sulfate. How does magnesium sulfate act? It directly uncouples excitation and contraction in myometrial cells and inhibits cellular action potentials. Second point, it is often used to control eclamptic seizures or convulsions during pregnancy. It is an alternative when beta-2 adrenergic receptor agonists are contraindicated. Its tocolytic effect is seen at a dose of 6 milliequivalent per liter to 7.5 milliequivalent per liter. Below this, it is hard to achieve the relaxant effect. Now, what is the route of administration for this? It is given by intravenous bolus 2 to 4 gram over 15 minutes, followed by IV infusion of 1 to 2 gram per hour. Now, what are the adverse effects? It can lead to sweating, feeling of warmth, flushing, dry mouth, nausea, headache and palpitation. There can be loss of patellar reflexes. There would be respiratory depression, and higher levels can cause cardiac arrest. Higher levels of magnesium sulfate can cause cardiac arrest. Now coming to the next group, that is prostaglandin synthetase inhibitors, that is indomethacin. It has been used to halt the preterm labor. It should be carefully used because of the neonatal side effects such as premature closure of the ductus arteriosus and the production of pulmonary hypertension. Indomethacin or prostaglandin synthetase inhibitors are effective in dysmenorrhea. Now coming to the other group, that is oxytocin antagonist or oxytocin blocker, that is atosiban. It is an oxytocin receptor blocker. It increases the uterine relaxation by competitively blocking the oxytocin receptors. The route of administration is by intravenous infusion. The adverse effects with this is nausea, vomiting, hypertension, skin rashes. Now coming to the miscellaneous drugs or group of tocolytes, these are ethyl alcohol. This is very rarely used or not used because it causes CNS depression in mother, which ultimately leads to fetal hypoxia. Now progesterone. Progesterone is used in threatened abortion or recurrent miscarriages or habitual abortions. Other miscellaneous drugs are nitrates and general anesthetics, which also depress the uterine contraction. In general anesthetics, halothane has the major uterine relaxant effect. So these were about the tocolytic agents. So we'll stop here. Thank you.